Too many things happening, I'm running out of time. On Sunday, May 10th, I was thinking about Jax and the Amazing Digital Circus and the events of episode 9 and all that jazz, and one of the things that I was thinking about is how episode 9 would go down. And essentially, I think the biggest thing that will happen is episode 9 is going to be boring as a frick. And what I mean by that is the cast will be stripped away and are stripped away of any possibility of having fun, having adventures, doing things, being distracted, so on and so forth. And my justification of this was that this is the only way Jax can really confront anything, is if literally they just force him to go cold turkey on all of his coping mechanisms. Because essentially that's what episode 9 is. It's literally Jax being stripped of every single coping mechanism that he could possibly be engaging with. And then before I got into the shower, I was kind of thinking to myself on this, and I was like, the only way that this would really work is if imagination-based powers were completely stripped away. Like, they literally had no way to cope. And then a different idea hit me. And I want to clarify two things before I bring up the idea that I had. One, I still do not think that Jax is going to be the villain. I do think that he would engage in a antagonistic type of thing where he isn't necessarily a villain, but he's engaging in behaviors that would hinder everybody else. And it kind of depends on what other stuff is going down. It kind of depends on if they can fix up the circus, if there is a third AI, if Kane comes back, or something. I don't know. Long story short, I don't believe in the Jax villain theory. I do believe in the Jax antagonist type of theory thing. And I think he would be very unintentional about it. I don't think, kind of similar to like the funny one archetype, he's just coping, and everyone's kind of left to deal with the carnage of that. So I think it'd be something very similar in episode 9, where everyone just kind of has to deal with Jax's way of coping. Second thing, way a while ago, I had a tweet pop up on my feed on Twitter that was basically like bringing up the concept of abstraction essentially being imagination based, where people that don't exactly want to be here anymore kind of think their way into abstraction and kind of imagination base their way into abstraction. Like, that's how that gets answered. And the tweet itself showed a picture of Ribbit from the trailer for some reason. And that tweet single-handedly hit me with a really interesting concept. Because my brain went to the Jax abstraction scene where he looks at a photo of himself with Ribbit and Kaufmo, and then he kind of is laying in his bed, he turns around and he looks to this darkened triangle spot, and then Ribbit's arms just come out of it for some reason. My first thought was, okay, well maybe Jax is hallucinating or something. I don't understand the scene. Up until that point, I didn't understand that scene, and I didn't know why Ribbit was there, because Ribbit's, after kind of reading that tweet and being hit with this, like, oh, that's what that could be, is Jax was in such a mental state of depression, or whatever, to the point that he was so longing for Ribbit and missing Ribbit, and in such a whacked out state of mind, that he conjured up Ribbit. That concept is an insane concept. But it makes sense, right? That would totally make sense, that Jax somehow imagination-based Ribbit's arms into existence. That just makes sense. Like, that is entirely plausible, especially since I feel like Jax already kind of really leans into the we can do whatever we want. So with that being said, I have a new theory as to how episode 9 will kind of go down. And I also, actually before I address it, I also want to address that I actually had this thought originally a while ago. I had no idea how it would have been executed though, so I never brought it up, and I thought it was kind of like out there. Episode 9 is just going to be breaking down the psyche of Jax. It is essentially going to be an episode where Jax is fully losing it to the point where he accidentally conjures up an adventure type of deal, as simplified as I can make that. He's going to conjure up an adventure, and it's going to force the entire cast and himself to go through his psyche. So it's essentially kind of like, I don't know if any of my current audience has seen like Phineas and Ferb. There's that one episode where they go into Candace's psyche and kind of like, there's like a whole song about it and all that jazz, and they kind of like go through different parts of Candace's mind. I'm a little bit tempted to say that's legitimately what's going to happen in episode 9, because one, Jax is just trying to cope. That is how this is all going to start. It's just Jax trying to cope. And he is going to accidentally, whether it's literally just change the entirety of the circus, or this is just like a separate different area or something or other, or just like conceptually, because my first thought was like, I am not interested in the concept of just a bunch of flashbacks. I'm not interested in the concept of a flashback episode. And I've stated that before with episode 8 stuff that I did. I don't care. But I did state in episode 8 that I thought it would be really twisted and sick and cruel and interesting as heck if Kane somehow just brought the cast through certain adventures and certain activities that essentially brings up past trauma, which in a way he kind of actually did that in episode 8 now that I think about it. But like literally like my throat! I hate being sick! It would essentially be Kane just bringing up past adventures and past traumas unintentionally, was one of the theories that I had for episode 8. For episode 9, it would be Jax coping so hard where he just imaginifies everything into existence and accidentally conjures up stuff because he has to confront this reality. And what better way for Jax to just confront this reality than for him to accidentally conjure up everything he's trying to avoid? I'm not saying that that's quite what episode 9 would be, but I do think it is interesting that the poster for episode 9 would kind of really lean into this, because it's literally a part of Jax's head. And my first thought was like, maybe they go and they try and like figure out, the psyche of Jax, the cast does, and then they try and like, go access his mind files and like try and break down why Jax is the way that he is. But I was like, that's kind of stupid and doesn't make sense. I think it's arguably way more interesting if Jax almost accidentally causes all of this via imagination-based powers, and then the cast ends up having to deal with that. Like, Jax conjuring up a bunch of stuff on accident, and then they have to deal with, like, Jax just losing his freaking mind. Because Jax is, if there's one thing that's for certain, it's that Jax isn't doing okay, and he's progressively getting worse. And I think we're going to see the worst of Jax in episode 9. What is wrong with my throat? This is a plot that I don't really think I've seen anyone kind of talk about, but I also think this is one of the more likely things to happen just based off of the information that we have. And then this episode would also kind of, you could easily justify the concept of bringing back Kane if they need Kane to kind of just like fix Jax, but then that kind of maybe leans into like, it's kind of what happened in episode 8. So I don't know if I'm super in love with that idea. But I just wanted to bring up that imagination-based powers is entirely possible, and Jax just accidentally conjuring up a bunch of crap for the entire circus cast members to deal with, including himself, is kind of insane. Because, like, there is evidence to, like, back this up as well. Now, I think the course of whatever's going to happen in episode 9 will entirely depend on if they still have imagination-based powers or not. I still think that the imagination-based powers left with Kane, or could have left with Kane, but if they still have that, oh, it's totally Jax is accidentally going to frick up more stuff. 100%. I don't think he's going to be intentional about it, but I do think he's just kind of going to just pick up an antagonistic role. And it's solely because he is trying his freaking darndest to cope. And what better way, honestly, to portray the message of meaning can be found in a stagnant life if the character that the episode is kind of focused around is doing everything but that. Like, Jax is like the antithesis of meaning to be found in a stagnant life, because Jax has no meaning. Jax hasn't found meaning in his life, and the only way he's been coping is through shoving every single possible exciting, thrilling, fun, horrific adventure that he possibly could, and engaging with every single unhealthy coping mechanism. Of course he's going to bring that energy in episode 9. Of course he's going to engage with the most unhealthy coping mechanisms known to mankind. Of course he's going to try and find his way to bring back the adventures, to bring back the energy, to bring back everything that is lost with Kane. If they lose their imagination-based powers, Jax is forced to confront everything that he doesn't want to. And if they still have their imagination-based powers, Jax is still going to confront everything that he doesn't want to. It's just going to be in a very twisted way, and in a very, I think he's going to accidentally cause a lot of problems. And quite frankly, I just think Jax accidentally, creating some sort of, because, man, especially with, the poster, the poster is, my biggest inspiration for this theory, really. And then the whole, the concept of Jax possibly imagining Ribbit into existence. Oh man, there is potential with that concept. Because again, Jax is kind of gonna go out with a bang, right? He's going to do everything in his power to just cope. And that's what it's going to boil down to. It's going to be him trying to shove things away and shove things aside. Two things can really only happen. Jax continues to engage in these unhealthy coping mechanisms to the point where it's literally hurting himself and everyone around him, or everything comes crumbling down and he has to face his reality. Quite frankly, I don't think the whole episode's going to be about that either, because there's only so much that you could dedicate to that. However, dedicating an entire 30 minutes, to me, you'd have a better time and an easier time dedicating 30 minutes to just Jax losing his freaking crap and just going crazy with imagination-based powers, intentionally or not, kind of losing his mind. Things are getting out of hand. He doesn't know, he doesn't care, he's just trying to stay sane. You're going to pull a lot more time out of that than having an entire 30 minutes to an hour of, wow, all of my coping mechanisms are gone and I have to face my reality. Because he's not going to do that. I mean, I think more towards the end of the episode, that's what it's kind of essentially building up to. But, I mean, what better way to really hammer that point of, Jax is going to become the antithesis of everything that the show is trying to convey. Because Jax is the antithesis of everything that the show is trying to convey. And what better way, what better way to do that than for Jax to just go all in with his unhealthy coping mechanisms, conjure up a bunch of crap, throw everybody under the bus, whether intentional or not. I think it's going to be more unintentional, because at this point, it's just Jax trying so hard to keep his sanity. What better way to bring the message, meaning can be found in a stagnant life? There is meaning in relationships. There is meaning in each other, with each other. What better way to do that than to have the complete opposite take effect first? What better way to do that than through Jax, who is literally the anti-version of the message of TADC. He's literally the anti-message of TADC. So I just wanted to quickly bring that up of maybe they have imagination-based powers still, and this is just Jax losing his crap and just goes to town with the imagination-based powers to try and cope, and then everyone else has to work together to try and fix that whole ordeal, which seems like more of a plot for the episode than not. Because it's straight up literally either that, where everyone has imagination-based powers and has to kind of be like, Jax, please stop, don't do this, and he's just going crazy, or it's literally the circus is falling apart and they have to figure out a way to fix it. Which is a much more predictable plot, in my opinion, and not quite what is being hinted at right now. I guess in a way it could be, but considering how much the show is very hammering in of relationships and friendships and all that jazz of, the spoons theory, if anyone has heard of that, where it's basically everyone has long spoons and they have to feed each other. You can look up spoon theory on your own. Essentially, that's what the final episode of TADC is going to be. Oh my goodness. And the concept, of Pomni loss and them all having that moment of bonding. Oh, frick. Pomni loss? And then Jax breaking down and sobbing, and just that being the straw to break the camel's back, and then everyone joining together to comfort each other over Pomni loss, or perceived Pomni death. Oh, man. If this happens, I am the prophet. Yeah, I thought of that idea in the shower, or like almost getting in the shower, of like the concept of Jax conjuring up all of the events of episode 9, doing it as a way to cope, but then probably just freaking things up in the process and really kind of screwing other people over would just really, oh man, that would also go into the point of like reinforcing Jax's archetype, especially the whole like, what's your archetype then, the villain? That Pomni says in episode 6. And I say he would do this unintentionally because he didn't really like that Pomni essentially called him villainous. So, yeah. Man, if I somehow call the entire plot, I'm going to lose my crap. Because I don't really like the idea of just like, oh yeah, it's gonna be a flashback episode. I don't care. But I do think, and quite frankly, if they do have imagination-based powers to some degree, I don't know if they're just going to have like circus-altering type of imagination-based powers. Because if they do still have imagination-based powers, it'll probably be based off of whatever is left of the circus, like what already is existing. They can't come up with something new. Like it would make sense for Gangle to conjure up the Spudsy's mask, because that was already something that exists in the code. So that kind of imagination-based powers make sense. And then it would make sense for Jax to accidentally conjure up a bunch of stuff that had happened in the past, because that code exists within, whether it's his mind files or other characters or whatever, adventures, different stuff. Oh, I'm cooking! So if they do have imagination-based powers, it'll probably be based off of information that is already existent in the code. It's not going to be they can literally make up stuff. It's basically going to be they call command a bunch of different things. That is interesting, though. Ugh, just that concept. Because quite frankly, my first thought was, if I were Jax and all of my coping mechanisms were just stripped away from me like that, the first answer is to just die, right? The immediate answer is to just die. But no, I think before that, we'd get like a last hurrah from Jax. Oh, the episode is literally called The Last Act. I'm losing. I'm losing it. Oh yeah, buddy. It is 100% going to be Jax like pulling a ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. He's not gonna be doing okay. Oh no. That is totally gonna. Oh my, I've just predicted the plot. I've just predicted episode 9. If I'm legitimately right, I'm probably gonna make a video of like, I can't believe I was right! And make another Jax episode 7 reference. I'm throwing my bets in they do have imagination-based powers, and Jax is going to like legitimately like essentially be the antagonist. Not intentionally, he's literally just trying to cope, but he's gonna frick things up. And he's gonna do it unintentionally. He's gonna unintentionally probably bring back Ribbit and Kaufmo through his imagination-based powers. He's probably going to conjure up a bunch of stuff from his past. The circus members are gonna have to deal with him, unfortunately. Oh, that's gonna be so interesting if that is the case. That is gonna be so... Oh my gosh, please let that be the episode, because that is going to be so interesting to watch. Where it's like, in a way, it's kind of a flashback episode, but it's just Jax just conjuring up a bunch of crap and, like, isolating himself and losing his mind and, like, bordering abstraction, but, like, coping through all this stuff. Dude, oh, man, just the concept of episode 9 just being the complete opposite, and through Jax, like, Jax just committing to the complete opposite message of what TADC's message is about, which is like the connections, the spoon theory, the meaning to be found in a stagnant life, just Jax being everything opposite of that and really engaging and like hammering into that point up until he just straight up can't anymore. Other theories that I've thought of could entirely still happen. Like, if I had to place my bets, it is going to be that. It is going to be that. Jax losing every single coping mechanism and trying to hold on to every single coping mechanism that he possibly can, because he's not going to just drop that. Oh man, I need to know if that's I need to know if that happens. Anyways, I just wanted to ramble about that because I thought of that and I was like, holy frick, that is entirely possible. And I hammer in the point a lot. I repeat a lot of stuff. I'll probably edit this down. I've been recording for almost a half hour and my voice is dying. There is so much more that I want to talk about, but I'm actually on crunch time and I've been rambling for way too much. But dude, that is like, I don't know how that could not be what happens. I'll put it that way. And that would make so much more sense than just the flashback episode. And that would make so much sense to like the concept of Pomni and Ribbit meeting. Oh my gosh, dude, I gotta stop. Anyways, new theory. I'm putting all the chips on this theory that this is legitimately what happens. It just makes sense. It makes sense with the poster, the title, the stuff that we've seen so far. I'm calling it on that. I'm straight up. I believe in imagination-based Jax losing his freaking mind, throwing everyone, including himself, under the bus just to try and keep his coping mechanisms, only for it to bitterly fail in the end and have that final theme, that final message hit right at the end. That there can be meaning found in a stagnant life. There can be meaning found in the relationships that they have. You don't have to suffer alone, Jax. Everyone, despite how much they like or hate you, is there for you. And you're not alone. We're all in this together. And Spoon Theory is real. And yeah.